We are live now, I believe. Uh, Hi Harminder, welcome to FOSSAC AMA session. So how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good too, thanks. Yeah, tell us about yourself and about your project Adonis.js.
Yeah, sure. Like as you know, I'm Harminder. I'm live in a city near to New Delhi. That's Faridabad, and I just like write code. I started my career as a developer almost 11 years back. Then I created Adonis.js in 2015, and last year itself in 2020, I went full time on the framework. So it's been almost like 1 year. I'm working full time on the framework. Now, related to Adonis.js, I'll like try to keep it small, but Adonis.js is a fully featured web framework for Node. So basically, you can use it to write the backend of your web applications. So like you can use it to build an API server, or if you want to build like an old school monolith, you can do that. Now, in terms of the approach of the framework, it is very similar to Rails, Django, and Laravel from PHP. In fact, Laravel was like the primary source of inspiration for creating Adonis.js.
Wow. So nice to hear about the reason you were working on Adonis.js. So how did you get into open source contribution?
Yes. So if I remember, like uh, I started working on my own things. Like I didn't contribute it to any existing projects earlier. I built some sort of a very small CLI for Angular when it was like Angular 1, and it didn't have any CLI or anything. And I got inspired by Amber and I created something small. So from there itself, I started working on open source. Then I created a validation library. Then finally, I created Adonis. So this is how like my journey has been.
Okay. Okay, what opportunities does this is something like a lot of college student ask that okay what opportunity will I get if I am contributing to open source or for in general does like should students should contribute to open source?
Oh yeah, yeah, completely. Like, like the very first thing is you will learn a lot about code. Apart from that, you will learn like how to work with other people, how to manage a community in case if you create something of your own. And even if you like don't pursue open source, some kind of a full time job, it's still going to help you a lot with your resume. Like even when students come out of college, most of them have done like some sort of college projects. So if you have like contributed to the open source in any way, then I think that's going to help them a lot.
Okay. So what do you think about events like FOSS I mean, what does this hackathons like FOSS actually like give? What opportunities does this bring to the hackers, or the software developers?
Yeah, sure. Like the very first thing is the FOSS United and FOSS Hack are like two things that I'm really like I would say happy to see that they are originating from India itself. And specifically talking about FOSS Hack, I think it's a great platform for everyone to come and like showcase their skill, what they can do, compete with others, basically in a fun way. And I think the incentives for different people will be different. Like for someone, it can be purely that they want to build something collaboratively with others. It can also be promote their work to build and they want to share and like from there. It's a great initiative.
Cool. Uh, so I think there is some issue with audio. Okay, now it's fine, I guess. Yeah. So okay, regarding, I mean, like about FOSSAC again. Should somebody, so like you said, you started contributing to your own project, building your own project. So, I mean, is it a good idea to? I mean, what what somebody should start with? How somebody should start with either building the own project or contributing to existing one? I mean,
I think it will depend a lot. When I started working on things, I just like saw a missing piece in the existing ecosystem. Like as I said, when the it was like known frame, but when I worked that there was like there is old very angular. So that's how just like uh, that particular thing, or I would say creating something for that gap. What other people can do is like if you're like not even interested in creating your own projects, you can even help other projects with fixing bugs. You can do documentation PRs. If you want, like you can even create the cheat sheets of the framework that you use, or maybe if you want to create some kind of editor extension that enhances the developer experience of any framework, library, or tech you're working in. And these sort of things are like usually very appreciated in the community, because the core teams which are like actually working on these frameworks, they don't have much time to build all these pieces. So anyone publish a cheat blog post, get something for the edit will get.
okay, cool. From the participants, do you have any question? Please either write in the chat box or you can unmute and just ask your question from Harminder directly.
I'm not sure if your voice is breaking for me or is it for others as well.
Okay, I guess.
Vishal, could you please repeat? We
Yeah.
couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I said for the audience who are listening to the session, if you have any question for Harminder, please go ahead and ask. Either you can chat in the chat box or just unmute and just talk.
Hey, Arvinder, Anand here. So one question like I want to ask you is, right, I mean, it's a lot of the developers who would kind of start early, in the initial stages, right? Often they're not confident about whether they can actually start a new project. Will they actually make it something meaningful or bigger, right? There's always this self-doubt, okay? And a lot of people are not even sure if they can actually contribute to a project. So what are your suggestions, like for people who are starting new, what are the suggestions that you have for them?
Yeah, I believe like the best advice I can do is a very common advice you will find, that is like just start building something without worrying about how much attention you will get, because we live in a very noisy world, and I don't think like anyone who builds anything will get attention right away, until unless you made some really I would say informed moves. Like you found something that was missing in the ecosystem, you got in touch with the key contributors, and they all said, yeah, like this is something we want, and then you started working on that thing. So again, like the advice is going to be just start building. Once you will build something, you will share it with others, a few people will find it. And more importantly, instead of like if that thing is going to work or not, you will learn a lot in that process. You are going to learn the mistakes you have made. Maybe a few people will open issues, so you will learn how to actually manage that. So once you actually get into that rhythm, eventually you will build something that will get more attention and that will get more users.
Yeah. So one other thing is also, right, I mean, we have the survivor bias. We only hear about projects which are really popular, right? I mean, we only hear about Harminder built Adonis.js, right? I'm sure like you have built so many other projects which haven't seen the light of the day, right? Okay. So can you talk about your journey? Like what are the things that you've tried before, and what are your learnings from that?
Yeah, sure. So, like as I said, the very first thing I got started with was that Angular CLI. Again, it was not like popular at all, or got recommended anyway in the Angular community. I was just using it for fun. and eventually I stopped working on it, and I don't think like even anyone noticed once I stopped working on it. The other one was a validation library, which I think a few people used, but again, it was not something that you will hear people writing about online on different blogging platforms. So this is how it has been. In fact, even with Adonis, like initially when I launched it, it didn't receive much attention. In fact, till 2018, and that was the time when I was thinking, okay, maybe I should move on and work on something else. But then I personally felt that there is a need of a framework like Adonis in the Node ecosystem, and that kept me going. And finally, around like somewhere around 2019-20, the framework started getting attention, and more people and more companies started using it. In fact, some companies came on board and helped me get working full time on the framework. So this is how it has been for me. If I talk about like what my learnings has been, I would say one should not work in silo. Something like I have done for a very long time, and I'm like very slowly and gradually trying to change it. Try to work, like publicly, share it with others. Even like if very few people notice it, still it's fine. Like work publicly, so that will like help other people understand how you came up with the idea, where you are actually going. So they will like follow your journey, and that will help you in the future. This is something I haven't done, and I'm like slowly trying to change that.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. I think working in public.
Yeah.
At what point kind of came to that realization? Was it scary to kind of start doing? You may feel like you may start feeling stupid in front of people. I don't know. Like how does it feel when you kind of? What was your feelings when you kind of started doing that in the beginning?
Yeah, so basically, like even today, if I try to work on something publicly, very first I am like not sure if people will get the context, like where I'm coming from. Second, how many people will even notice it, because when you are like making an explicit effort to go out and share what you're trying to do, and not many people notice, it is kind of demoralizing. So that's like one thing. But if you look around, that is how it has been for many people who are known today in any sort of community. You just like keep on doing what you're doing. Yes, not many people are going to care about it because everyone is busy with their life, with their things. But once you have reached that state where your work matters to other, now they can come back and see where you came from and actually follow that journey by looking at the artifacts you have created over the years by working publicly.
Thanks. I think that's a great advice. Okay, but so one other thing is also right. So when you kind of start thinking of a project idea, it all feels like that's going to kind of change all problems in the world, right? You're on the top of it, and so how do you know? Is it you just being like too stubborn that you're sticking to your idea for really long? Okay, or your gut feel is really right. I mean,
Yeah, I think like this is a very hard thing to know. If you want to work on something, how do you know even if it's the right thing? Like if you don't have audience, you actually cannot go and ask anyone. And if you think like I'm going to do some sort of surveys to find out which is the right thing to work on or not, then maybe you will not be able to work on anything ever. So you have to make that first move. And I think like this is a kind of a skill that you build over time by being part of some industry, that you kind of figure out, okay, this is what I've seen people talking about generally in the chat rooms or online forums. This is something I find missing, and there will be many people like me. And of course, like it's always going to be guesswork. I don't think there is any sure way to figure out, yes, this is what I'm going to do and it's going to change the world. Of course, like if you believe in it, for example, as I was saying, around 2018, I thought, okay, Adonis.js is not that popular. Should I be like putting my efforts over here, or should I be focusing on something? But after a few months, I myself realized that if I have to start a new project in Node, I cannot go to any other framework. I'm not saying like Adonis is perfect, but the approach I took is so different from many other frameworks. I don't see it in the community. So I cannot use any other framework, and that actually kept me going. So that was more kind of a instinct-based decision for me.
Thanks. Anyone else have any questions for Arvinder?
Okay. Uh, so I have one. For like you said, like there were many projects that that a lot of people like, for example, like for example, yours Adonis is there, but there are a lot of projects which were like Anand mentioned, which is not out there, or not being contributed by other people. So at that stage, where you are very new. So I mean, I think you have already answered that question, but still, I'll try to rephrase it. That how do you get your initial contributors? I mean, who can be your initial contributors?
Yeah, sure. So, like with the other projects, I don't think there were any initial contributors apart from a couple of guys who were using the project. Even with Adonis, most of the contributors are people who use the framework every day, and they just contribute to make sure that the framework doesn't get stuck, or if something is bothering them, any sort of bug, they want to fix that. So this is how like it has been for me. Like please make us new contribute board. It has been passive thing and the framework that they wanted to have few ideas implement and so far.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Anybody have any question from the audience?
Yeah, if no one has, I think I have a lot of questions, but I just want to kind of give people a chance. Guys, everyone, please ask if you have any questions. If you're not, if you don't want to which language it is, okay. But when it comes to kind of making a successful first project, there are a lot more things that needs to get right, not just building good, writing good code, right? Okay. So I'm sure like many people who start their first journey would kind of learn it the hard way. So, I mean, I want your advice to people who are creating their own projects. And so, for example, they're quite confident about their project, but what do you recommend them? What's your advice to build a project that's sustainable, where people would love to contribute, and more people would use and contribute back?
Yeah, so like as you mentioned, a lot of people will learn it the hard way. That is how it like it was for me. I learned it the hard way as well. So like a few things that I can talk about is usually when you will like build something, the very first thing that you should be doing is you should share it as like I said earlier, you should share it publicly for other people to see what you are actually working on and give you early feedback if anyone is interested. But if you don't receive any early feedback, don't think of that as like nobody cares about it, because usually people also want to see something getting done before jumping onto it. So the very first thing is once you are done, probably share that actual code using React for it. Just share React community and they'll start getting contribute. So then do over there uh, to accept that you don't know something about I would say the broader scope of something you have built, and be open about it, accept it, and that way, like if someone knows about it, they can contribute it. Second, usually like when people do PRs or when people create issues, they have specific problems that they are trying to solve. So instead of going with a mindset that they are not getting it or they are doing it the wrong way, just go with the mindset that they want to get something done and they made an attempt, and just try to have a conversation and find a middle path how that thing can be added to your library, your project, or your framework. And once people have these sort of like positive experiences, they will surely come back and they will like recommend it to others and they will contribute as well.
Thanks. Anyone want a question? Okay. So a follow up on that is especially when people start contributing, right? I mean, you find that they're actually trying to solve an interesting problem, improve it in a certain way, but usually you don't really like the coding style or the way they're approaching it is not something that you really like. I think that's a problem that most developers of FOSS projects kind of get into. So I think it's a fine balance. You have to kind of make sure. I mean, you can't really be harsh and say this is bad, but I don't know how it's been for you and how you have been handling it, and what's your advice for people who are starting.
Yeah, sure. I believe this is very similar to like when you work in a company and you have your peers who are working on a project. Let's say like you are the one who actually initiated the project. Now new people are joining in. They are making changes. Of course, you cannot get rude with them or ask them like this is bad code. So you just have to use like the same thing, giving the gentle feedback. Also, the tooling these days have been improved a lot. So if I talk specifically about Node, we have like things like Prettier and ESLint, which make sure like the code is properly formatted. It's linted properly, like it's not using I would say some sort of a coding style which can lead to issues. So that's one. The other one is like subjective changes or like subjective approach to do something. That is something that can only be done by doing back and forth. So if you see something that's not done the right way, just give them a suggestion that, hey, like this is how it should be done and this is the reason behind that. And many times like you will not be able to back your decisions with technical arguments, so you can be like very clear about it, like this is a very subjective choice and we just want this thing to be done in this way to have like consistency with the rest of the code base. So I believe like people usually understand this, because once the PR has been merged, there are chances like that contributor may not come back in the future, but you still have to manage that code. So just be polite. Just tell them why you want something to be done in a certain way, and just think like you're working with a peer in your office and you just have to get them that particular thing done.
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a question from in the chat window. Alan is asking, can you suggest any route path I can follow to learn and contribute to community and as being a newbie?
Yeah, sure. So Alan says, like, I'm not a pro at programming, but quite fascinated by FOSS. So I think in this particular scenario, what I have seen when people are getting started usually is they become like part of some community, and like of course like you have to use the tool in order to understand it, and then only you will be able to contribute. And they actually begin by helping others. So if you are in a Discord chat room or if you are on GitHub and you're using that particular tool for a while, you can actually like start helping others, and that way very first you will be recognized by other community members. Second, many times you will not give good suggestions, and then someone else will actually hop into that particular conversation and they will make a better suggestion, and that way you can actually learn why they gave that suggestion. So I think that's like a very good first step. And once you like build the confidence, then maybe you can actually start fixing the bugs that others have reported. Many times there is a bug and the actual author has told the solution within the conversation, but they are like not in the front of their computer to fix it right now. So you can actually take that solution, create a PR and just make it a little bit easier for them. So these can be like some really good first steps.
Yeah, I think that answers the question of Alan. Yeah. So, does anyone have any question? We have a lot of people joining us, so feel free to unmute and talk if you have any question. Uh, Seems like no questions from the audience as of now. So, okay, I have one question. So, am I audible? Okay, yeah. So, I recently saw a tweet from some big name on Twitter, and then he mentioned about open source means, one solution for one problem. Is this true? I mean, because I see Linux has various, like distribution. I mean, fork within it, Debian, Ubuntu, and Kali, and lot of other, right? So, I'm just talking about in general open source rather than FOSSAC and Adonis today. So, I mean, this question. So, can you explain on that?
I'm not sure if I got the question correctly. Did you mean like open source is one of the solution to the problem of distributing the code, or
No,
is it something
what I mean is, I mean, open source, like, so for example, there is a problem that, for example, the alternative to Grammarly. So,
else?
I mean, let's say I'm building something open source alternative to Grammarly, let's say called some, XYZ. Does that mean that, somebody started building this tool, and then I mean, so whether the question I'm asking is because let's say somebody think that Adonis is going in not the right way, so they'll fork and then start building, same problem. They're gonna build in own way. So does this something should happen that a same project should get more fork and then people start building it on different communities which is solving the basically same problem, right?
Your voice is breaking in between. I'm not sure if it's for me or if it's for everyone else, but I'll just like complete the question. I think I got it this time. So it's basically like people think open source is like the solution to any problem you have. Like if there is Grammarly, and if I want to build a competitor, I'll say like open source Grammarly, and that itself is enough to actually build the alternative. Uh, I don't think so. Like open source is good in one thing. Like it's actually good in many things, but in this context, it's good in one thing, that is, uh, you can get a lot of people who are interested in the same topic to can actually improve that software from its code point of view. So let's say if you build an open source for Grammarly, then once you start building it, once you start talking to others, anyone who is interested, or anyone who doesn't like one specific thing about Grammarly, but of course they cannot get it changed, they have to like go through support, then they have to get it added as a feature request, and then get it implemented. With open source, they can like start with a discussion and most probably come up with a PR. So this is something open source is very good at. But still, in order for that alternative to be there in the long run, there has to be some like commercial aspect to it. So either like some companies have to back it so that the people can continue working on it. The creator who started it at initially should be able to actually fund it and continue long run. Open source is solve everything, but good at many hands and improve.
Okay. So, okay, I think there's some still.
For the benefit of everyone, I think Kaustubh has a question. Could you please look in the chat?
Yeah, so the question is, what was it about the existing frameworks that motivated you to start building Adonis.js in the first place?
Yeah, this is the question I've been getting like since I released the framework initially, and I still get it. So I think let me start with a very brief explanation of why I created it, and that may, like actually help making the comparisons more clear. So if you look at Node.js has its roots in these micro frameworks like Express and now Fastify, and then there's Koa. So these are all like very small micro frameworks where the framework is all about like the HTTP routing and a middleware layer that you can use. And beyond that, you are just left alone to figure things out of your own. So let's say if you want an ORM to work with a database, you need to find a package and then use it. The framework itself, like Express, is not going to help you with that. Same as authentication. So what happens in this case, the framework doesn't take the ownership. The ownership is on the person who is building the project to research, find the best fit for themselves, and start using those packages. Now, I will not say this approach is bad, like it's subjective and it's good for some people, it's not good for other. But I think this shouldn't be the only approach. And batteries included frameworks like Adonis.js have their own place system. Like we have Python, we have Drupal, and they also these have micro frameworks. So on that option node, that was like the vision to build the frameworks were like these lean, very small micro frameworks.
Does that answer your question, Kaustav? Yes. Uh, so those who are joining, here in last few minutes, so we are having a AMA session with Harminder. Feel free to ask your question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and then speak.
Arvind, I think it would be nice if we can talk a bit about the FOSS funding models. I think what I understand is you have some people backing you, some organizations, but can you kind of broadly talk about what are the different models that work, and then the kind of struggles that you have to go through until you find that one?
Yeah, I would say like it's still not settled for me, but it's in a stage where I can, like I don't have to worry about what will happen next month. So the models I've tried, one is the donations via Patreon. I think it's okay. Like it cannot work in the long run because fundamentally people can only support you for a limited amount of time, and in order for anyone to actually support you in the long run, they have to get something like some direct value out of it. So that's like Patreon campaign is something I'm still running. It cannot like cover all the bills, but it's still okay. The other one is getting involved with a couple of companies to help them actually use Adonis.js every day, and they help them basically architecture their projects, and if they have any requirements from the ecosystem, if they want in the front touch with me directly, we can make sense to add it to the field. That model has been so far for me. There is just like found about the FOSS United initiative of like giving grant to the contributors, which again works in the small run. That the grant that you get from FOSS can give you a runway for like a limited time, and within that runway you can figure out something more sustainable. So I'm myself like planning to do training, basically videos or creating some sort of handbooks, and also planning to work on some paid packages. So that's how I'm trying to monetize the framework in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what are the career opportunities for FOSS contributors?
I think again, if you are, let's say contributing to any sort of open source project, it kind of makes it easier for you to, like use it as, I would say, a way to showcase your skill, apart from like going through the regular interview process. So like all the work that you have done, it's open. You can uh, like tell the HR or the tech person that this is what I've done. They can actually go through the code. They can look through it. They can have a discussion around it. So I think what really happens is it makes things a little bit easier for you, because you have actually created artifacts that other people can go and look at it, versus making you go through some kind of a stringent interview process. But again, like this is a very broader thing. There are many companies who say, okay, open source is great, but we still have our own process, and everyone actually goes through it. So this is not something like going to work everywhere in every case. And apart from the opportunity, you can also look at um, open source contributions as a way to actually improve your skills, because you're working on real things. You are seeing how like what people want. How do you fix that? So that's like a good skill to have in your career as well.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, my name is Alan. So the question I'm having is that these days I'm reading that the people using their smartphones and mobile devices are more as compared to their laptops and I mean the web products. So you developed a framework which is for the web apps. So my question to you is like in the long run, obviously there is a mobile or which one are that what how will in next few days started something like for your vision for it?
Yeah, I think like the last time when I saw the statistics around like mobile apps being really good over the web apps, or like getting really popular, I would say, was somewhere in 2015-16. But I still see web apps being around and still used a lot. So like to be honest, I may not have some really good answers to give over here, because I myself is not a very, I would say, uh, a very big user of mobile phones. I open my laptop or my desktop every time if I have to do anything. And the reason, like I decided to work on a web framework, like it's a backend framework. So even if you decide to build a mobile app, you still need like some sort of a server to communicate with, and you can still use Adonis for that.
So I just had one more question. Like you just said, my concern with the open source has been, as I mentioned, like it's been very interesting to me that I see when in open source, it's like many talented people come together, they contribute, and there are very noobs. So it's a very I see it being a very nice opportunity to learn and a efficient way of learning how to code good. So one thing is that if you're contributing more to the open source, how will you pay the bills? I think you kind of mentioned that that is one concern, and other thing is that you also said you ask other companies to use your framework to be used for their day purposes. So how that process has been? Like I know like getting a sponsorship from even from a company, it's a very tedious task. So how do you convince them to use your framework and not there are many other good framework that have been developed and that have been used for many years, but you how do you showcase yourself? How do you make yourself stand out from the other crowd? What is that the key element?
Yeah. So again, like as you said, open source itself cannot pay the bills. Like that's the struggle every open source maintainer has, and everyone, like just try to find ways to actually survive. Some become like really big. I know Ivan Yu from Vue, he has been like really really successful in doing it way more than what I've done with Adonis. And there are many projects who are not able to do it, and after a couple of years, like maintainer stops working on it because there's life, you have to take care of other things, and people actually move on. So that is how like the ecosystem is. Now coming to the question, like how I have been able to get the sponsors, um, like again this is a thing that can be expanded on its own, and everything comes back to value generation. So whatever value that you're generating for someone, you will be like supported, or I would say get paid for it. So there are so many companies who are using JavaScript every day, whether it's on the front end or on the back end. And once they're using it on the front end, they move to the back end as well, and they find Node. And as I said, like Node.js has its roots in these micro frameworks. So for Adonis, it's actually not a very crowded space because there are like 10, 15 different frameworks, but they all are very similar. They are like small micro frameworks, but Adonis itself is a batteries included. So if a company or a team decides that they don't want this micro framework, they want something that's more like um, that is like more opinionated, they kind of see Adonis or maybe like a couple more. So that filtration automatically happens for me, and from there on, like the framework has to be good technically, there has to be great documentation, and when companies approach you talking about certain things, you just have conversations with them. This is how it has been.
Can I put for another question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just suppose like you have been time you switching something. You have on probably so change or switch. Do you think that okay, somebody who has done something related to management will be good to take up any management role there. But developing a framework, like the experiences you had, how will you think the experience will help you if you wish to change a job or career or any such kind of thing?
Yeah, I think like it's going to be subjective based upon the experiences people have. For me, again, like when working on Adonis, I have to work on some deep things. Like I created an ORM. That means I need to understand SQL. I need to understand like the differences between different SQL databases, like how MySQL is different from PostgreSQL. So you basically so you are not only building this high level thing, you are actually going deep enough to understand those uh, core concepts of that particular thing. Like this is how it has been for me. So like I haven't thought it that hard, like if I have to actually move on and do something else, how I will approach that. But again, like even if it's at job, you just go there, you do your work, you try to learn new things, and once new opportunity comes, I believe like everyone who has been like keen enough to explore things just find a new role and fit themselves into it.
I had a question. Are you working on Adonis full time now?
Yes, I am since last year.
Mhm. So could you help us understand how is it different from, say, working at a startup or a big tech company, and why why would you prefer it?
I would say like it's more calm. I have my own time. Like it's so like whether it's on my frame, like working on my own, it's going to be so you can manage your own schedule on your own time. You can decide to work on. More importantly, it's about freedom that you get. So when I'm working on the framework, of course, like I have to work on certain things that like the community wants, and that will help framework go in the right direction. But still, I have like enough creative freedom to decide what should be next, and like what shape this particular feature will take. I personally enjoy that versus working in like in a startup where usually features are coming from the top and having like different motivations to get them implemented. So like this is the reason for me to work on the framework. But again, like there are downsides as well. You're usually lonely when you're working on it. You don't have anyone to actually talk about. The best I can do is just tweet about it and see if anyone is interested in the topic and have the conversation, or maybe uh, like like getting in touch with the core team. It's me and two other folks, pinging them, and whenever they are available, having a conversation.
That really makes sense.
Yep. Thanks.
Uh, we have another question. Is future plan for like to integrate GraphQL in Adonis?
Uh, like I personally don't have plans to add it, but again, like the framework is beyond me and what I do. So I think we already have like a few integrations created by the community. We have like Adonis Apollo that you can use to work with GraphQL. But I personally at like this particular stage not planning to add anything to the core related to it.
I hope if you have any further question, feel free to write in the chat box again, Ashok. Uh, okay, so do you have another question from the audience side?
Yes, I do.
Yes, please.
Hi, Bak. Really grateful for this.
Uh, Daudi, I think you are far away from the mic, or there is issue with sensitivity. Can you just, because we could not hear you
Sorry, I was
clearly.
connected to the charger. Sorry, I was connected to my charger.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying thank you guys for the work that you guys have done on the Adonis framework. It's really helpful. That I wanted to ask: is there any feature that you personally would like to see come to Adonis? For instance, Bak, is there any feature I'd really like to bring to Adonis?
Yeah, sure. Like, are you talking about the features that we are planning to add, or any feature that we are not planning to add, but we want the community to create? We are not planning to add, but we want the community to create for us.
Either, with the one which takes the highest precedence between the two.
Yeah, sure. So I would say like one of the biggest thing that's missing right now is having like the first class support for testing. You can still test your Adonis.js apps, but like everything else that we have in Adonis, whether it's auth, social authentication, mail, like support for mailers, we don't have anything related to testing right now. So that's like one of the biggest pieces in my roadmap. The other one is having first class support for WebSockets. That's the other one. Now, in terms of the community contributions, if I would like to see something, will be okay. All right. So, yeah, no worries. I'll continue. So if it's about the community, then I would love to see like someone working on the GraphQL side of things, or maybe creating a VS Code extension.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so in case anybody have any question, okay, in case if nobody have any question, I have last question to ask from Aman. Have you been to any hackathon and how was your experience? Or if you have been to there, if not, what do you think about attending a hackathon? Okay, I think my voice was breaking earlier. Okay, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I was asking, have you been to any hackathon?
No, I have personally not been to any hackathon ever.
Okay. So, I mean, would you willing to be, because so the idea of FastHack event is to actually have this event once in a year that people can come and first one thing is, of course, you'll work together with you people you know and you people you might not know. So that's one thing, the learning opportunity and getting to know other people out there in the Fast ecosystem. So I mean, would you be interested to recommend anybody to attend any hackathon?
Sure. So, like, do you guys do it online or do you do it in person somewhere?
It's online only.
Yeah, sure. I would like love to be a part of it.
Yeah, so I mean the idea is maybe like we have a one project list there on FastHack, so you can actually add it and you can bring three people who can actually contribute, including yourself. So it's just 36 hour sprint happening this Saturday Sunday. So those who are here, you can actually even create one another feature of Adonis itself, and for example, you might work on different feature as a different team. So we have maximum four people can join a team. So that would be something we would be happy to see some more contributions happening happening to the Adonis project.
Yeah, that will be awesome. Like, is there any way to like plan this in advance? Let's say, me deciding, okay, if we are doing the hackathon, this is what we are planning to build, and people can actually participate in advance.
Yes.
Before the hackathon start.
Yeah. I'll share. Kaustav, can you share the link of the project or the hackathon website link? So the way is actually you register for FastHack and then you go to the project list, you create your own project, and you can invite or people can actually request you to join the team, and it's a whole set of description you can actually write there, that what are you planning to build at this hackathon, and you can whether invite somebody to with this project link that you can join, or you can probably add yourself. I think it's only invite only. I guess people have to voluntarily request you to join the team. So it would be great if you register, and in case you can actually ask your Adonis.js other contributors to participate and work on a different feature during this hackathon. So we have you can actually look into the rules, and we have it's happening this Saturday Sunday. So. And it's there is one rule actually. This is restricted. So the owner should be from India itself. So they should having some bank account in India to transfer the money in case they are the winner. So yeah, that's the only restrictions I see. But rest are, it should be free and open source license, and which is already there. So yeah.
Yeah. So just to add what Vishal said, I mean, I think it would be great if you can actually maybe kind of suggest some ideas. If you want to participate, that would be wonderful. But even if you're not willing to kind of spend the time during the hackathon, if you can actually suggest some ideas, like you said that having a VS Code extension would be a nice thing to kind of have, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can kind of list, suggest like 3-4 ideas like that for Adonis, and then maybe kind of spend an hour or two during the hackathon to kind of help them understand that, etc. I think interested people can actually pick those things and actually build those things as part of hackathon. I think that would be really wonderful.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea. So, like, do you guys do it every week?
No. Once in a year. Once in a year.
Oh, once in a year. So, and that's happening like this weekend.
Yeah, and we also have a cash prize up to 10 lakhs. So we actually can identify the projects and then give them cash prize for building interesting stuff. So I think that's an incentive for people to kind of also build stuff.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea. Maybe like I can just go through it once and then we can catch up after the call. And
yeah,
I would actually love to like maybe spend this weekend on this. I actually don't have anything else to do.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome, Harvinder. That would be so great.
Yeah. And so you can think like either me or Vishal. We're always around. I think. Yeah. Sorry, Vishal.
No, I was just saying that, in case you can actually, for example, you have something as your milestone. I mean, some feature that is coming in your mind that, okay, we should be building this week or this month. So you can propose that idea and ask somebody from your contributors to add that as a project, and they can